Hey, what up KX crew? Today we're going to be talking about a video that I watched that I found very interesting. It's a video called The Toxic World of Self-Help by James Janney, and just by the nature of the thumbnail and the title, I found myself very intrigued because it's very relevant to me and what I do. In this video, he talks a lot about his own experiences with the self-help culture, and I wanted to weigh in with some of my own opinions and whether or not I agree or disagree with some of the points that he makes. He breaks the video down into 5 different parts. The first part is where he talks about where it begins, how you can get into the whole self-help culture, what are the things that draw people into it. Part 2 is the addiction you can get to self-help culture. Part 3 is the sinister business of selling hope, which is interesting. We'll get into that. Part 4, toxic positivity. And the last part is hustle culture. Let's get into it.
Self-help makes you feel good, there's no doubt about it. There's this amazing feeling of satisfaction that I felt after finishing the final page of every self-help book that I read. I had a rise in motivation. I felt like I had just completed the level of some video game and my character had just leveled up. You see, after every self-help book that you read, after every self-help video that you watch, there is a surge of dopamine that rises straight into your brain. That feeling of accomplishing something after reading each book made me feel incredible. And after finishing that self-help book, I would go straight onto Amazon and order a bunch of new ones. That cycle would repeat itself many times over.
This was the first part of the video that really caught my attention, and that is referencing dopamine as a reaction to finishing a self-help book and getting addicted to it and chasing the rush of finishing a self-help book. I'd never really looked at it that way. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, you could always argue that chasing a dopamine rush has negative consequences and isn't a good thing, but having a dopamine rush isn't a bad thing. We get dopamine rushes from doing things that make us feel good, accomplishing things, not necessarily a bad thing to be chasing that kind of dopamine rush. Hormones are a natural thing, and dopamine can be a really helpful tool, especially when it comes to doing things like being productive and making a difference in the world. Sure, being addicted to anything can be dangerous, but in this context, I think that there's better battles to be fighting than saying that getting addicted to self-help is bad. I mean, it's one thing if you're getting addicted to self-improvement in terms of like body image, getting addicted to the gym, or getting addicted to plastic surgery, but in terms of getting addicted to improving your life and feeling a sense of enjoyment and fulfillment from that, I think it's fine. But I do agree, it's very easy to get caught in a cycle where you're just chasing that feeling of self-improvement without actually taking the steps to improving yourself, using motivational videos as a shortcut or a temporary boost of motivation and then not acting on it.
Massive illusion, the illusion of progress. After reading that book, you feel accomplished. After attending that seminar, you feel accomplished. After watching that self-help video, you feel accomplished. You feel like you've achieved something great and have done something really productive. That motivation lingers in your system, urging you to buy the next book, attend the next seminar, watch the next video. It's only when you take a second to pause and reflect when you realize nothing has changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And I think a lot of people fall into that trap of just consuming, going to this seminar, reading this book, watching that video. You think that the more inspirational content you consume, the more successful you're becoming, when in reality, none of it matters because motivation should just be your jumpstart. Motivation in itself is worthless if you don't do anything with it. In this next clip, he talks about a term called action faking, and I really like this term. It represents the action of attempting to make progress, but not really making progress, more like spinning your wheels. It's like waking up feeling motivated, making a to-do list, and then not doing anything about it. It gives the illusion that you're being productive, which plays into this whole thing about, the self-help culture of trying to look like you're hustling all the time, you're always working hard, and it becomes a bit of an acting game, like you're always trying to give the impression that you're this kind of person who's always busy and always being productive, when in reality that's not always the case. But you can even fool yourself into thinking that you are. Next, he gets into the business side of things, where he talks about how these gurus are trying to sell you things and they're not necessarily trying to make you feel better. And well, here's the clip.
Sure, these gurus were making money, but they were providing so much value in return. They were trying to make my life better, right? Pause. This type of naive thinking becomes problematic when you're dealing with an industry that is worth billions. You are more profitable to the self-help industry unhappy and discontent than you are happy and fulfilled. Remember when we talked about how you have to come from a place of being dissatisfied with yourself in order to want to improve your life? Well, the business of self-help knows that. In fact, they rely on that feeling of inadequacy to pull you in. Oh, and they're very aware of how addicting self-help can be.
I think I'm gonna have to disagree with him on this. I mean, in any business and in anyone in business, there's always going to be corruption. But I think as a whole, labeling the self-help industry as sinister is, I think, a little bit inaccurate. A lot of these gurus that make money selling you books and stuff like that is because that's what they're good at. I make money personal training and selling people workouts and charging people to help them through workouts. And I make money doing that because that's what I'm good at and that's what I'm passionate about. And I think that applies to all of these self-help gurus as well. They should always get paid to do what they do. And I think that everyone should strive to getting paid to do what makes them happy. This is a very dark perspective to have on the self-help industry, and of course they make money off of you when you're sad and depressed and want to change yourself, because that's the market. You're the person that they're trying to sell to, just like, you know, a restaurant is trying to sell food to hungry people. It doesn't make the restaurant corrupt for trying to profit off of people's hunger. That's just good business. And business in itself isn't corrupt. And he makes it seem like these businesses are trying to leave you feeling unsatisfied at the end so that you can keep coming back to give them money. But that's not necessarily the case. If you use their product and it does change your life, you're probably not going to be discontent and unhappy, and you're probably not going to go back to buy more stuff. If you do feel unhappy and discontent after, maybe it wasn't the right product for you or it didn't inspire you in the way you were hoping, then you may go try something else to find motivation. If I'm personal training somebody, I'm not going to try and leave them in the state where they started so they can keep coming back to me. I'm hoping to leave them better than they started so they don't need to come back to me. But the thing is, there's always going to be discontent and unhappy people, so it's not like the self-help industry is making unhappy, discontent people so they can sell them things. But if the case is you being addicted to self-help books and you just keep going back for more and more books, you just have an addiction in the same way that anyone has an addiction to anything. He references self-help books a lot, but I mean, that's still taking in content. What's the difference from being hooked on a self-help book and any book in a series, right? Or just enjoying a good movie and then going back and buying another movie. That doesn't make the movie industry corrupt. It means you like movies. But of course, an addiction to anything can be unhealthy.
Combination of you feeling inadequate and you getting a small high every time you consume self-help content turns you into an avid consumer of their products. And make no mistake, many of these gurus will continue to make product. After all, it's their own self-help addicted core fan base that are urging them to produce more and more products.
I already commented that I don't think it's that sinister for self-help gurus to keep making products for people that keep seeking inspiration, but I did want to comment on how he talks about the fans and the core group and the following. That's very true. It is very easy to get addicted to motivational speakers. I've done this with multiple figures, people that I tuned in every single day to see what their newest content was. I followed them on every platform, and I found that to be pretty unhealthy myself because I was constantly comparing myself to them and trying to be like them and setting myself up for impossible standards.
And as you continue consuming, thinking to yourself, this time things are going to be different, your wallet continues to dry up and you never truly find yourself progressing or improving yourself. No, all you've done is made yourself a consumer of the self-help industry.
Okay, let's dial it down a little bit here. This is a little bit too dramatic for the point that you're making. I don't think that everybody is spending lots of money on inspiration, even the people that fall into this trap. Everyone that I've been addicted to and all the inspiration and motivational figures that I followed, I didn't spend a dime. It's all free. It's all free content online. So I don't think money should be an issue or even a factor here unless we're living in a pre-YouTube, pre-internet era. I've bought 2 self-help books because I really like the motivational figures and I learned a lot from them, which I found productive, and I wanted to financially support them because I've consumed so much free content that I wanted to give them a little bit of money.
Ask yourself, have I consumed more from this industry than I have actually put into action?
That is a very good question, and I think everybody should ask themselves that. Not even financially, just how much time and energy do you put into watching motivational videos before you actually do anything? It can be very easy to feel like you're making a difference in your life without actually doing a single thing.
I'm going to be successful is what I told everybody, and at that time success for me was becoming one of the world's best actors. But of course, this is never how reality plays out. It sounds really silly, but at the time I truly felt like I was going to be happy forever, or at least in this constant state of motivation. Self-development is its own bubble. You're surrounded with positive messages. Everyone's telling everyone you're all going to be successful. All your gurus are making posts about being happy and blocking out those negative thoughts. But just like any bubble, there's always a burst. And my burst came when I started losing my passion for acting.
Man, I have been there. I've been so wrapped up in the entrepreneurial hustle and trying to grind every day, make sure every day counts, feeling guilty for every minute that I spend not doing something productive, and ultimately brainwashing myself into thinking that this is good. This is a lifestyle that I want to live. I'm happy doing this. It can be literal brainwashing when you expose yourself to so much of the same content from the same people over and over and over every single day. That is how brainwashing is done. And when you're brainwashed, you don't see reality clearly. You don't see your life for what it is. You can only see and think in motivational quotes. It actually becomes a really unhealthy way to live your life.
I had made myself out to be this person who was destined to be successful, someone who had all their shit together. And now, as my passion began to falter, I was left with this deep sense of dread and doubt. And I never said a word to anyone, not for a long time. I tried to convince myself that I wasn't losing my passion, that I had everything in check as I always had, that nothing had changed. Why, you might ask? Because in this bubble of self-development, surrounded by positive messages, I was made to believe that negative thoughts about quitting were wrong. And even worse, I felt like if I accepted those feelings of unhappiness with what I was doing, I would go back to being the old version of me, the version of me before self-help. It took me a whole year of inner self-talk and debate until I finally realized I had to come to terms with quitting. And I had to accept a truth that the world of self-development was trying to hide from me. There will always be struggle, and that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Amidst this sea of people spouting the same positive, optimistic, good vibes messages, I realized that the actual meaningful things are created through struggle.
What he's talking about here is toxic positivity. It's living under this lie that if everything in your life isn't going smoothly and you're not hitting home runs every day, something is wrong. I've also had to come to this realization. Trying to get my personal training business to grow, I was pushing myself mentally and physically beyond what was emotionally healthy. He talks about having his bubble burst, and I know that that's happened to me a couple different times where I made a major career change, and that nearly broke me. I couldn't sleep for a couple of years because of that. And then another time when I was so into my health and fitness lifestyle, and then I had to move, and then everything changed, and I was so used to having this productive lifestyle and every day working towards making myself a better person. And then when I couldn't do that anymore, I completely lost my sense of self-identity. And like you mentioned, sometimes you need to just have a long discussion with yourself, come to terms with who you really are. Also in this video, he mentions how all the self-help gurus, and even in our culture, it's encouraged to work hard every day, 24/7, always be hustling, make sure every hour of the day counts, successful people don't sleep, all of that. And he mentions that there are two problems with this way of thinking. The first one being burnout, and that's when you push yourself too hard and you can't go any further, and then you put yourself into a state of mental, physical, and emotional stress. And that's something that you do have to recover from. That's not something you just bounce back after a cup of coffee. That can take a long time. I've also personally found this to be very true. The second point is that when you work so hard, you can put yourself in tunnel vision, and that's when you don't pay attention to the things around you or how your life is developing around you. You're so focused on sticking to your routine, sticking to your formula, not accepting that, looking in other places might be better because you're in tunnel vision, because you're not looking up, you got your head down, you're working hard. If you spend so much time in tunnel vision, you might not realize that you might be doing the exact same thing as somebody else. You lose your sense of perspective. It's important to take a breath, take a step back, look around, take in your surroundings, make an observation, and then plan accordingly.
I realize that this video has probably left some of you feeling a little confused about what you should do and what advice you should listen to. I obviously don't have all the answers, but I can say that the things that have genuinely helped me out in my life so far are going to the gym and eating healthier, going to bed earlier and waking up earlier, writing my goals down for the week, the month, or the year, but with an understanding that these things may or may not change over time, meditating, and reading books that are actually practical and help me out with whatever situation I'm facing.
So in his conclusion, he talks about the things that are currently helping him and what he's learned and taken away from his whole experience with the self-help culture. And I love how after a long history of gorging on self-help books and information, what he found at the end of the day has helped him the most is eating clean, working out, meditating, and only reading the books and consuming the content relevant to what he's going through in life. I think we're all chasing the secret or the perfect formula, waiting for the day that we can find that last missing piece of the puzzle, and then we can be successful, and then we can love ourselves, and then we can start to transform our lives. And what he's saying, after experiencing all this different stuff, he found it the most helpful to just eating clean, working out, and focusing on just having a healthy mind. And I can vouch for how even just working out can do a lot for your state of mind. Once you're getting active and eating clean, putting good fuel into your body, all of a sudden you have a new energy and a new motivation that doesn't come from some BS video on YouTube. It comes from in your body, because your body is your mind. So you treat your body right and your mind will thrive. So in my own conclusion, I just really want to support those points, but I don't have any problem with the self-help industry. I think that that's great if you can find a guru, just not to get too hooked, not to get too attached to them and try and make their way of life your way of life. I've had that issue trying to shake a couple mentors out of my life because I only saw the world through their eyes and not my own. So self-help can be fine, just don't lean on it, don't depend on it. I've talked a lot about motivation and how motivation really should just be the thing to jumpstart your car, but you have to drive the car to get where you want to go. Just turning your car on isn't going to get it anywhere. In the same sense that watching an inspirational video or reading an inspirational book isn't going to get you anywhere, but it might get your foot in the door. If you feel like financially supporting a motivational person in your life, then that should be on you and what your heart is telling you, not what your wallet is itching to do. So those are my thoughts on the issue. What are your thoughts? Feel free to leave a comment below. Tell me if you agree or disagree with me, and by all means, please go watch the original video. I left a link in the description. It's a fantastic video. It's well edited. It's got great music. He's very well spoken, and I think it's a good watch. And if you liked my video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It would really help me grow my channel. Klassen out.